Hold on one second. Oh. This is Let Us Interrupt You here on Tuesday, April 11th, 2022. I am Joseph Alvo. I am wearing my San Antonio Spurs hat because I'm going to start talking about Greg Poppavich not committing to re-signing or re-extending his current contract with the Spurs. I wanted to bring this up out of the way because, it's a shock that Greg Poppavich might actually retire. There's a lot of reports there right now that he may have coached his final game ever as a Spur head coach. He's going to the NBA Hall of Fame in 2023. I think this is the right time for him to step down. A lot of people are saying that this guy should keep coaching, should continue, building up the younger talent, have him rebuild for another deep run. But let's be honest. Greg Poppavich at this point has got nothing to gain from this. This guy has won so many championships, has coached for the Olympics. I mean, there's so much on his resume that I'd be going off of this for about 30 to 35 minutes. I'm not trying to go on here for another hour and a half. I'm not trying to do this for 55 minutes, but the guy's had a legendary career. There's no other way of describing it. When you put together the dynasty that he had in San Antonio with Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen, the list goes on of how many players he's coached over the years. How many All-Star games he's coached, how many Olympic games he's coached, how many gold medal teams he was a part of at the time. And there's so many of them, it's hard to describe. Him not renewing it at this point and him retiring at the right time, it's the right time to do it. It really is. It's the right time to do it. There are a lot of people out there that may speculate, try to say, no, this is not true. He's going to commit back. He's going to re-sign back. But to that, I say, why? There's not going to be an Olympic basketball team anytime soon that's going to catch fire here and it's going to want Greg Popovich to be the coach of the team. They're going to probably want Ime Udoka. They're going to probably watch Adrian Griffin. They're probably going to watch Charlie Quinn. They're going to probably want Dwayne Casey for some strange reason, which he just got fired from Detroit, mind you, and he got moved to front office. There's another thing, by the way, I just want to give you a spoiler alert right now. So Ime Udoka could be going for the Detroit Pistons head coaching job, the Raptor job, the Rocket job, or the Brooklyn Nets job still on the table at this point. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was going for the Los Angeles Lakers job or the Dallas Maverick job. I mean, there's so many jobs right now in the NBA that are open right now that Udoka should be, knocking on their door at this point for this guy. That was another report that came out right as I was going on here. There are a lot of candidates, by the way, going in for that job as well. I just to name a few here. But Greg Popovich, I would say, it could also be a part of that piece as well. But I say at this point, this guy should just retire, call it a quits, hang it up. It's not that he doesn't have it anymore. It's just that what does he got left to prove? I mean, you got a guy who's won 5 championships at this point as a San Antonio Spurs head coach. The resume speaks for itself. How many wins he has over his career. It's well over 1,000. We're going to nearly 1,400 wins at this point. I mean, it speaks for itself. There's not enough, words to describe. There's so many words to describe Greg Popovich. How he is in the media, how he takes, shots in the media, which I love. I love that once in a while from a coach like that. And he deserves it. He deserves to do that because he has every right to do it because he earned it. From the way he's coached over the years, the amount of talent he's risen from the ashes, developing, you name it. It's not enough words to describe it. So if Popovich is going to have his last year with San Antonio Spurs, this is it. This is the way you have to do it. This is the way you have to end it. To me, it's the right way to go out. Granted, they had a losing season this year. They went 21-61. They were 40 games below 500. To me, wins and losses here, when you have a career like he's had, it doesn't matter. When he knows his team wasn't going to be just developing and rebuilding anyway, it doesn't matter. When he's calling it a quits, saying that they got no, they don't listen to him anymore at this point, that they need to appoint somebody else. And he's already admitted at this point that he knows he's on his way out the door anyway. I think he's actually started the season out by saying this. I'm pretty sure at this point. So this is not news. This should not be a shock to anybody at this point. It's a shock to me because the only reason I said it was because my take actually came true. that this could be Greg Popovich's last season right now with the Spurs. And what a way for him to go out. So, I mean, that to me is just what I was saying beforehand here. Got the massive results. John Ram won with 10 under here. Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka got the tie for second at 8 under. Speed finished fourth with 7 under par. Woods had to withdraw because of an injury to his back. Not much else to tell about that whole thing, really, other than those things happening, really. But yeah, that is the story. That is your Masters review. That's all I really got here. They've had multiple delays. At one point, they had a tree fall down. They had to stop a game again. Weather was terrible over the weekend for the Masters. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen two sets of series getting stopped over weather and climate before. And that's the first right there for the Masters. And I said Ram was going to come back. The delay kind of helped out. It kind of helped him with his swing a little bit. He was sticking around it for a little bit of practicing. Idolizing the field at this point, looking at the weather. Brooks Koepka got too comfortable. Sometimes just, relaxed too much, I guess, and sometimes kind of choked a little bit, in certain situations where he could extend the lead. I knew Ram was going to come back and win it. I wasn't surprised. So that really doesn't surprise me, really, that happened the way that it did. Anyway, but yeah, that's your Masters review. Red Sox over the weekend killed the Tigers. They won 4-1, I believe, on Sunday. They won 14-5 on Saturday. They destroyed them 6-3 on Thursday. They swept them. Detroit really had not much of a shot. They're 2-7 because of it. They stink. I mean, Devers completely destroyed them. Yoshida got in there. Got some hits in there. Turner got some RBI hits in there. Chris Sale was money in this game. It just really came down to the fact right now that the Red Sox were beat up on a really crappy team that really at this point could care less if they're ever going to fix their woes going forward. Unfortunately, they ran into a buzzsaw last night against Tampa Bay, which they played Tampa Bay in about 25, 30 minutes or so. They lost 1-0 last night thanks to, was it Lowe that hit the home run last night? Brent Lowe, they hit a home run last night for the Rays. Pavetta went 5 or 6 innings, didn't allow a run, didn't allow a hit, didn't even get a decision here. It looks like Pavetta once again is the best pitcher on the mound. Between Pavetta and Sale right now, those are your top two pitchers right now going forward. That's really about it. The Red Sox weren't really a no-show. I think they were burnt out from the Detroit road trip. They ran into a crazy team like Tampa Bay right now, who's 10-0 right now. Is this streak for real? I don't know. I think so far when you look at the schedule, they've played the crappy Nationals, the crappy Athletics. They haven't really played anybody good. They're not really impressing a lot of people right now at this point with the schedule they've been playing. They've been playing a lot of crappy teams. I'm just being realistic. They haven't played anybody special. I'm sorry, they haven't. I'm just calling it like it is. It's just, there's really no other way of pinpointing it other than just, they haven't played anybody good. It's that simple. I mean, they at this point, wait about 2 or 3 months down the road and we'll see maybe where they are at. I mean, I just think to myself that they've got a really good well-built team. And I know I already said that it could be Rays Diamondbacks at this point. I was putting up a hypothetical about the Rays Diamondbacks possible World Series. It could happen. I mean, Arizona just came off a weekend where I'm pretty sure they just swept the Dodgers out of the blue. So I mean, I'm not. It wouldn't surprise me if I was right with it because I'm usually right about these certain situations. These teams just come out of their woodwork and they just come out swinging for the fences. I mean, I'm still going to go with Phillies Astros because the Astros are starting to pick it up a little bit. They've, Philly, who just won the other night, they just destroyed Miami, was it 14-3? I mean, they won 4 of their last 6. Houston avoided being swept by the Twins. So, I mean, that's that. I mean, there really is no other way of looking at the season so far other than looking at it and thinking, well, the best team in baseball right now doesn't seem like the best team in baseball. Unless they're playing somebody really crappy. The Red Sox last night had them dead to rights at a scoreless 8 innings until that low home run changed everything. And really, honestly, it was the fact they put Martin in at the wrong time. It really came down to the fact that, and they left him in there for too long. So in reality, the management once again cost the Red Sox this game last night. It's unfortunate. It is what it is at this point. But that's what you really have to come down to it. Bad decision making when it comes to the bullpen once again. This is why the bullpen lives on eggshells anyway, most of the time anyway, not because they just suck indefinitely, but because their bullpen is terrible because they had a manager out there who doesn't know how to be decisive in certain situations, doesn't know how to pull people at the right time. And this has been Cora's struggle now since he became the manager back in 2018. This is not a thing that just recently just happened. This has been an ongoing struggle for about 5 years at this point as a manager for the Boston Red Sox. And I clear my throat there, sorry. But anyway, but yeah, that's been the struggle now with Alex Cora now for the last 5 years. I mean, I don't see how no one else saw this coming, but they didn't really play that great last night, to tell you the truth. They really didn't. But I'll give you the scores quickly from last night's games. I mean, at this point, I'm doing a show so late. I got home at a late day today. It was a long day today. I would say about a long, 13, 14 hours of being up today. It's been a long day. But here's your last night's scores. Guardians beat the Yankees last night 3-2. The White Sox beat the Twins last night 4-3. Phillies beat the Marlins 15-3. I was wrong with the score. It was close, actually. Rays beat the Red Sox 1-0. The Mets shut out the Padres 5-0. Cubs won in 10 innings over the Mariners 3-2. The Dodgers beat the Giants 9-1. The Nationals beat the Angels 6-4. A's lost to the Orioles 5-1. Houston Astros beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 8-2. Texas Rangers beat the Kansas City Royals 11-2. The Braves beat the Reds 5-4 in 10 innings. Rockies won over the Cardinals 7-4. And the Diamondbacks beat the Brewers 3-0. They're now 7-4 on the season. And by the way, the Blue Jays over the weekend beat the Angels. And so what people are calling so far the game of the year. Angels were up 6-0. And they blew the series. I mean, right now they're looking at a 5-5 record even with this whole thing. And anyway, I'm just getting a text back just now. Sorry, I was a little distracted there. Today's actually my Auntie Barbara's birthday. So shout out to my Auntie Barbara. Today is her birthday, so happy birthday, Auntie Barbara. I sent her a text message earlier, so I was just getting it back. But yeah, so far, if I had to say right now, who has the edge right now in the National League at this point, it kind of looks like it's going to go to Arizona or at least Milwaukee. I'd say Arizona, Milwaukee, maybe even Pittsburgh. And who would have thought the three teams this year that have some kind of an edge here in their division? You got Pittsburgh, who's got an edge in the Central. The Diamondbacks got an edge in the West, and you got the Brewers, who sort of got an edge in the Central as well. So far, 3 games on right now. Excuse me. Guardians beat the Yankees right now 2-1 in the second. They're actually into the third inning now. The A's and Orioles just started. They're scoreless. And the Astros and the Pirates are at a 1-0 standoff right now in Pittsburgh with Houston on top right now. They just started the first inning as well. The Orioles, I would say right now, have got a little bit of an edge to them right now in the American League East. I mean, I know they're 5-5, but they're kind of in the same ballpark where the Red Sox are at right now. The difference is that they got a developing team. They've got a developing pitching staff. I think this team could make something interesting here going forward. I don't know if the Red Sox are going to be a playoff team this year. I really don't. I didn't have this team going into a deep playoff run this year anyway, even with the talent they picked up. Because until they got that bullpen stuff corrected, I don't see how the Red Sox really have a shot right now in this set of divisions. I don't. Especially their own division right now at this point. The Orioles are starting to look good. The Yankees are looking good. And you got the Tampa Bay Rays, who are undefeated in baseball right now. Have got the best record in baseball. And you could argue right now that when the World Series comes, and we all know it's not that far away, we got 5.5 months away from that happening. I know it seems far away, but it's going to go by quick, believe me. About 5 or 6 months, if we're going to be realistic here. The Red Sox, I think, in my opinion, right now, have got a long ways to go before entering or even sniffing the American League pennant. I'm just being realistic here. I am. Anyway, moving on to the Bruins. The Bruins last night, I should say over the weekend, dominated this past weekend here with a with a big win against the Flyers, 5-3 on Sunday, making themselves go 63, 12, and 5. And you also got the win at home against the Devils, 2-1. That was a huge win as well, on prime time, with the whole world watching. And to that, I say the Bruins right now are, as far as I'm concerned, ready for the playoffs. I don't think the team really cares about tonight's game, although realistically they should, because this could be the last time Alex Ovechkin could ever step foot in a Washington Capital uniform. Because I don't see how I want to see how Ovechkin wants to break the record. I was talking to my dad earlier today, and he believes he's going to break the record, the scoring record, or at least get the close to Gretzky. And to that, I say, with the way he's been playing this season, he's got 74 points this year. He's got 42 goals. I'm not saying the guy is washed up and slow. What I'm saying is that this is a guy right now who is looking at it right now and from this perspective and saying, I'm not going to win with this team. And at this point, does he care about the records that he breaks at this point, or does he care about winning a Stanley Cup? To me, I put the Stanley Cup thing right in front of my eyes. Get to that goal. Because at this point, he ain't going to do much with his Washington Capital team if that's all he cares about is that record. And the problem is that team is just flat anyway. They're not the same team. They're not a championship contending team right now going forward. And they weren't even a championship contending team when the season started. So, and you got Pasternak, by the way, who's got 60 goals. He's got well over 100 points. He's still in the MVP conversation. And the Capitals right now look like a team right now that's going to probably end up going at a 35, 37, and 9 record, which is basically 46 losses. Or 47, I believe at this point. Actually, at this point, it would be 47 they play the next day. But, yeah. That's that. I mean, I can't really say more than this other than the Bruins just being amazing this year. This is their year to win the Stanley Cup. And I think they can do it with Montgomery at head coach. I think they really do. I think Montgomery, I had my doubts about him. I really did. Hearing about the rumors about him leaving the team during the playoff run, being absentee, not knowing where he is. I don't believe that stuff anymore. I don't. And I just think realistically that to continue this whole conversation to me about the commitment of Jim Montgomery, this is the most committed he's ever been as a coach ever in the NHL up to this point, as far as that goes. Anyway, so this is their year. We got some developing news at this point that was being brought up this week. Odell Beckham Jr. By the way, signed a 1-year, $18 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. The Jets tried to match up the deal. They could not do it. So Odell is going to be a Raven, and that's going to probably keep Lamar Jackson around, and it should. I mean, if you can't get DeAndre Hopkins, you got Odell Beckham Jr. at this point. What more do you want? What more do you want? You got Devin Duvernay, who almost got 1,000 yards receiving last year. He was at 880, I believe. And if he would have thrown the ball to him a little bit more, he probably would have gotten over 1,000 by that point anyway. Probably would have gotten 1,200 yards receiving. Just saying. He really didn't need much to do it. Anyway, but that happened. Sean Clifford, the Penn State quarterback, made a little visit to Lambeau Field. Surprising visit, I will say at this point. I didn't expect this guy to even get a visit from anybody, let alone affect the Green Bay Packers. It seems like now they're going after him. This may be for a backup role for Jordan Love. I don't know. This may be more. Maybe they don't believe in Jordan Love right this second. Maybe they believe in Sean Clifford. Clifford, by the way, who had an excellent year in Penn State last year. He had well over 30 touchdowns, I believe, that past season. He only had 7 or 8 interceptions. But had a great year for Penn State. And the kid, not that far behind Jordan Love as far as age goes. He's at least 25, 26 years old. Long-time college student. It took a while, but he got there. So this may be an interesting story developing going forward. Who knows? Mikal Bridges made history the other night, playing his 83rd game. And that's with Derek White, Jordan Poole also making the history. That's the first time it's ever happened before in the same season. They also made the cut this week, so congratulations to them. The Warriors, which was on Sunday, destroyed the Trailblazers 157-101 with a record-breaking first quarter point by a team with 55 points in the first quarter and a half a dozen threes. Klay Thompson made a record as well. He's getting 303 points in his career. Just incredible numbers. You can't say enough about it. There's no words to describe how great the Warriors have been in these last few weeks. Do I think they have a deep playoff run in them? No. So that's that. Adam Duvall lands on the IL with a injury to his wrist. They have recalled Bobby Dahlback from the minors. That kind of hurts the Red Sox a little bit. Duvall was actually the most productive guy on the team, along with Devers and along with Ushada. So I'm surprised at this point that he got injured that quickly. So this may impact the Red Sox right now in the scoring. Certainly did that last night when they couldn't score jack last night against the Tampa Bay Rays. So there you go. Dwayne Haskins passed away last year. New details on his death were emerging now. He was robbed and blackmailed during his time at his death. That's why he was driving at his fast on a highway late in the early morning. See, I had a funny feeling about this stuff right now because I said to myself, I don't know if he was drugged or what the story was, and something felt off about that whole situation. What he was doing up at 4 o'clock in the morning, beyond me. Just again, that whole situation was just sad. Young guy, 24 years old, and really had a chance to start in the NFL. And realistically, you could have argued that if he was alive still today, he probably would have gotten a job. And I'm going to be honest here. He probably could have gotten a job with the Baltimore Ravens. He could have. Just terrible how he passed away again. It really does suck. It really does. There's more football news and more baseball news. Gronk says there is no chance he'll ever unretire for a second time and return to the NFL. Honestly, at this point, he really doesn't need to with the accolades he's got right now. And people want to say he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Well, you know what? You're all nuts. That's all I got to say. You're all nuts. The guy got 3 Super Bowl rings in the quickest amount of time and did with the best quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. So he'll be in the Hall of Fame pretty damn soon. He'll probably get in with Tom Brady. They'll probably get in together. Cliff Kingsbury got a job as a quarterback coach for the USC Trojans. So he'll be with the Lincoln Riley staff. He was with Lincoln Riley back in 2016-17. Or not, he wasn't with Lincoln. I'm sorry. He was, I guess he might have been. I'm trying to think. He was coaching Oklahoma. I think after Mahomes left for the NFL. So yeah, he was with Mahomes in Texas Tech. So there you go. Lions trade away their defensive back Jeffrey Okudah to the Atlanta Falcons for a 5th-round pick today. This was surprising. I didn't expect Okudah to get traded here. I didn't think he's up for a trade block to begin with. The guy, pretty good defensive back. Atlanta's is kind of getting better at defensive back at this point. This was a big loss, I think, by Detroit because Okudah's a good defensive back anyway. He's been getting better. So I'm surprised they traded him away. I really didn't expect that one to happen so soon. Devin White wants to get traded. That's according to CBS Sports. Devin White, if you want my honest opinion, I think it's going to end up going to the Ravens. I don't know what it is. I just think Devin White with Roquan Smith, it's a dangerous combination. Makes the Ravens a lot better defensively. I was also thinking a possibility with the Cleveland Browns. You got Myles Garrett in there. I think Javion Clowney is a free agent anyway. So it kind of helps out. Makes Cleveland a better defense. And Greg Newsome, who's been looking to get traded anyway. You can do a player exchange with some draft pick exchange. You get Newsome in there to replace Sean Murphy-Bunting, who you lost to Tennessee for. So it kind of makes sense. Now, the question is that, does Cleveland draft the defensive back in the draft? Oh, yeah, they do. The guy wants to get traded. You want to trade the guy? You see a defensive back being up for the draft here, you draft it. And there's going to be a lot of them coming out of the first round. I guarantee you that one right now going forward. Guarantee it. Peyton Manning was in the news talking about Bryce Young, comparing Young star to NFL quarterback Joe Burrow. And almost winning a Super Bowl championship, Joe Burrow, to be exact, back in 2022 season with the Bengals. I kind of see it. I see more Drew Brees more than anything else. I think it's kind of strange that he compared him to Joe Burrow of all people. Drew Brees, I'd say maybe is a little somewhat better than Burrow is. Burrow's got a long way to go. I feel like to even get in the Tom Brady numbers and conversation, and even Mahomes numbers. So I'm kind of surprised by this story, this development. So hey, if Peyton Manning sees it, good for him. I see more of Drew Brees and Bryce Young. I actually started to see a little bit more of Russell Wilson, if you want my honest opinion about that whole thing. And I ain't saying much. The difference is that he won't be as annoying or attention glory hog as much as Russell Wilson was with Seattle. O'Neal Cruz for the Pittsburgh Pirates fractured his left ankle, is going to be missing 4 months of action. So he's going to be out for 12 weeks. That sucks. Guy's getting surgery as we speak. Paul George, not sure when he'll be back. He'll be missing the start of the first round of the playoffs once again with the knee injury. So sad for Paul George. I don't know if the Clippers are done necessarily though, because they still have Kawhi Leonard. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to be declining in the middle of the playoff run. Just putting it out there. And Rudy Gobert suspended by the Timberwolves and won't play because of an altercation he had with Kyle Anderson in a fist fight that he had with his player. I believe it took place on, was it Sunday? I think it was. Or was it Monday? I don't know. It was a wild event. It was Monday, actually, right? Yeah, he punched his own teammate. Jay McDaniels was also part of the fiasco that was going on, to the point where he fractured his wrist. Rudy Gobert, by the way, who at this point, I don't know if he's going through a midlife crisis or what's going on with him lately, but he's just trying to fight everybody at this point on this team. I think he's so sick of the Minnesota Timberwolves, he wants to be done with this team. He'd rather be much in Utah with Donovan Mitchell, but without Mitchell, he wasn't going to stick around. And the reality of it is, he said he could have gone to Cleveland. The problem is Cleveland didn't want him, and Mitchell wanted to get away from him. That was the problem with this whole thing. He needed to spread his wings and fly. And yes, he did. Mitchell did. Yes, he did. Not much else to talk about here on this podcast today. I blew by these topics like left and right rapidly here. So it is almost 7 o'clock. I actually did have one more story here, and I'm going to pretty much be done with this podcast. Ex-Bengal star Carson Palmer says Joe Burrow is the NFL's best quarterback right now, quote, more consistent than Patrick Mahomes. You can go either way with this. I'm going by with the consistent way of him getting sacked at this point. And a lot of people are looking at this saying to me like, oh, what do you mean by that? Does he hold the ball too long? Yeah, he kind of does. But when he doesn't hold the ball too long, he's got the Tom Brady accuracy. Do I think he's got the Tom Brady mental drive? It's yes and no. Mahomes right now at this point, I'd say, is a more consistent quarterback. Does he turn the ball over a little bit too much? Yes, but he makes up for it by throwing more touchdowns to redeem himself. He does a lot of redeeming himself before screwing up again and costing the team a big game. That I will say. But that right there from Carson Palmer, that from one Bengal quarterback to another, that's respect right there. That's respect right there. And again, I mean, you could argue right now Carson Palmer's entitled to his opinion. I think the theory here makes sense because the narrative in this whole thing is that, well, Joe Burrow is the NFL's best quarterback at this point. He's clutch in certain situations. He went into Kansas City last year, beat the Chiefs. This past season, he went into Buffalo, in snowy Buffalo, nevertheless, to take Buffalo and call it Bruffalo. That's what he did to the city of Buffalo. He renamed himself Bruffalo. Joe Bruffalo. It sounds like I'm saying it with a lips at this point. Like when Murray did on Practical Jokers when he was saying Bray's brief was brilliant. When he had the Novocaine stuff shot in his mouth. That's what it sounds like right now. I'm trying to say Bruffalo when it comes to Joe Burrow. Because you got, you know, Burrow City in Kansas City. You got Bruffalo in Buffalo. Joe Burrow has basically owned the Bills and the Chiefs to the last 3 seasons. Didn't have to do much to do it. And the sad thing is at this point is that Buffalo kind of shot themselves in the foot during that playoff run. If Von Miller was there, that game would have been a closer game. It would have been. That defense was overmatched that day. Cincinnati was just showing off too much defensive power. There's no other way of looking at it. But Cincinnati at this point, with Carson Palmer saying this, and Carson Palmer, who had a pretty great career in Cincinnati, I think. Many could argue that he didn't. There were a lot of missed playoff appearances, but when he did make the playoffs, that team was a good team. Yes, they didn't win any playoff games, but they were dominant teams. They were teams that belonged in that Super Bowl conversation. They couldn't deliver. It's too bad. They were 11-5 both times, by the way, when they did win the division and made the AFC wild card and then choke. And I was running gap for Cincinnati for a while because they couldn't make the playoffs. And when they did, they just choked. Andy Dalton, I think, made the playoffs 3 straight times. And 3 straight times, he was done in the first round. Andy Dalton couldn't even touch Carson Palmer's play in Cincinnati. Wasn't even close. Andy Dalton, who you can say had basically the same career story as Carson Palmer did. The only difference was that Carson Palmer was never a backup. I rest my case. And if Joe Burrow ever leaves Cincinnati someday and goes to play somewhere else, it'd be one hell of a story. Because everyone remember the run that he had in that Super Bowl 56 year where nobody believed the Bengals were going to win the Super Bowl or even make the Super Bowl at all. Nobody thought they were going to compete against the Rams and come out the same. They came out the next year and they were fighting. They look like a team next year that's going to contend for a Super Bowl championship and get back in the AFC Championship game conversation. They might as well do it. Cleveland looks good. Buffalo looks good. Cincinnati looks good. Kansas City looks good. That's 4 teams right now that look good. They do. A lot of people were asking me the other day, a lot of people were talking about the Bill Belichick, and they were asking me the other day whether or not Bill Belichick's record at this point is the reason why the Patriots aren't winning. It's not even that. The obsession with the record is not holding the Patriots back. It's not, they're not going out of their way to say this is not for us, so why should we care? But the only way to get that record quickly in New England is, like I said before, and I'll say it again, you get Lamar Jackson. Although now at this point, I think that deal is pretty much dead at this point with Odell Beckham Jr., who is now with the Ravens. So to counter that, we should get DeAndre Hopkins. Get this guy on a low contract. It's a good way to do it. It's going to make Mac Jones better. If Mac Jones just does his job, and that's the simplest thing in the world, like Bill Belichick says, like that says right there on that wall right over there. I mean, look, it might as well be backwards because it's a mirrored webcam, but it says right there, do your job. If Mac Jones can do that, get his head out of his ass, actually do it in adversity, don't let the big things get to him at this point, don't get overwhelmed or overzealous or just turn to a 12-year-old for 5 minutes, they would win some more games. And I thought about this the other day, and I said to myself, what if DeAndre Hopkins wants to go back to Cleveland? Wants to go to Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. Wants to go back to the north side. Wants to go back with Deshaun Watson. I didn't even say really go back to Cleveland because he actually started his career out in Houston, but I meant to say go back with Deshaun Watson. Because think about it. Deshaun Watson at this point could use another wide receiver. That team at this point could actually get a decent year out of Stefanski as head coach. Stefanski, by the way, who's still in the hot seat for whatever reason. I mean, they're trying to blame him way too much for the Baker Mayfield fiasco. Mayfield didn't want to be in Cleveland anymore. That was not Stefanski's fault. That was Myles Garrett. That was Baker Mayfield's fault. He wanted out of there. And it was more on the ownership more than it was on Stefanski. So I don't know why Stefanski's getting the blame for all that. He's going to really swift kick in the nuts for that bullcrap story. I'm just saying. But I just thought of this. What if Bill Belichick left the Patriots, this is his final year, didn't retire, but actually went to go coach for the Cleveland Browns? Stefanski leaves Cleveland. He becomes a new head coach for New England. He tries to fix Mac Jones in a situation. And he got Bill Belichick at this point, who goes for not just 348 wins, because let's be honest, he'll get to this point before he even leaves New England. Let's be realistic. He ain't leaving New England in 2023. He's leaving in 2024. What if DeAndre Hopkins sticks around in Cleveland a little while longer for Bill Belichick to coach him? And really to coach the Browns into a deep playoff run. Because I think, honestly, at this point, everyone wants to say the coaching style of Bill Belichick is so old. It's not even the coaching style. This entire year was on Mac Jones and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge at each other's throats. Mac Jones could not stay focused to save his life because all he wanted to do was question everything and make sure that it's not on him, it's on Belichick, it's on Patricia, it's on Joe Judge. By the way, Joe Judge, is going to be the assistant head coach this upcoming year for the Patriots for Bill Belichick. So Judge might replace Bill Belichick. Is that really a good idea? No. You get somebody else in there as a head coach, even if you got to use Jerod Mayo. Jerod Mayo's a good head coach. Would be a good head coach. I think he would be. The problem is he's a defensive-minded head coach. How would he fix Mac Jones? How would he make Mac Jones a better quarterback? I don't know. That really wouldn't work for me. But Bill Belichick, I think, realistically, with Deshaun Watson, could get 400 career wins by the end of his tenure. And really to retire with a team that he basically started his career out with. The Cleveland Browns is a no-brainer. Everyone wants to get to the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon is not going to be fired 1 year in after being the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals if the Cardinals completely suck. The idea of Bill Belichick going to coach in Arizona is ridiculous. The idea of Bill Belichick going to coach in New Orleans is ridiculous because Derek Carr is not that good enough. Another idea that popped in my head the other day. The idea of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady reuniting. Brady's getting retired after one season. Goes back to San Francisco. Tells Fox to go screw. I mean, I heard this the other day. Bill and San Fran with Tom Brady. That's never going to happen. And really, realistically, we're all in a pipe dream, really, because then at that point, you'd be thinking, oh, he'll get 500 career wins by that point. And honestly, I think Brady would just convince him to do it just to stay there longer in San Francisco and retire as a 49er and say, yeah, I'll retire as a 49er too with you, Tom. That's a pipe dream. That's never going to happen. This is more realistic because of what Bill Belichick likes. And Deshaun Watson is not a running quarterback. He's a guy that can actually throw the ball. He's already lost the speed at this point by being off the football field for over a year. He's not going to get that back for a while. So the idea of Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson being similar at quarterback too, it's not realistic. Watson's a clutch thrower. He's more clutch than Lamar Jackson is. I'm sorry, he is. And don't get me wrong, he was a league MVP unanimously, bullcrap. That was a fluke, miracle season that Lamar Jackson did by himself, and John Harbaugh trashed it, and so did Lamar Jackson. That's what happened. John Harbaugh didn't whoop-de-doo in Baltimore. So did Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson cannot get it done in the playoffs. Watson, on the other hand, can actually make a good case for it. You get Bill Belichick back in there against Andy Reid in an AFC title game. Deshaun Watson after a long time to get his revenge against Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't know if obviously this won't happen this year, obviously, but it could happen this year too with Stefanski and DeAndre Hopkins if he so does choose to go play for the Browns. It could also be DeAndre Hopkins that goes to Kansas City and you're finally facing your foe. Hopkins becomes the foe. Watson becomes the opponent here. It's Hopkins versus Deshaun Watson. It's not even Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. No matter how many people want to make it out to be like that, the storyline would be Hopkins versus Watson. If that were the case, I don't think he's going to go to Kansas City. I just don't. It's hard for me to picture this guy playing a full season with the Kansas City Chiefs and winning the Super Bowl championship. It is. Because all that production from Kelsey would go right to Hopkins, which hurts Kelsey's value, sticking around in Kansas City even longer. So that's why I think that will be a no-no. And I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to go to Cleveland. And the Browns miss the playoffs somehow. Stefanski gets fired. They move on. Bill Belichick goes right back to Cleveland. And we could see Bill go there for 3 or 4 years. Now, the clause in that contract obviously means he can't do what he did in New England and be the GM and the head coach at the same time. But you also got Bill O'Brien in there as well that can take over for Bill Belichick when he goes. That GM stuff will go right to Bill O'Brien before it ever gets in Stefanski, Joe Judge, or Jerome Mayo's hands. And I don't even think they would even want that responsibility anyways if they ever became head coach. Bill O'Brien, you bet your ass he does. Oh, they forced Bill Belichick out, so I might as well just take the reign from Bill Belichick. Of course he would. He thought he was a great GM in Houston. Boy, I can't even say that with a straight face. Who am I kidding? He was a great GM. Boy, was that a disaster in Houston. O'Brien was. Let me tell you, real disaster. But think about this for a minute, folks. Would Bill Belichick right now, if it wasn't for the Cleveland Browns at this point, being a head coach from there, and being an assistant coach for the Giants at some points, the Giants and the Browns deserve a big thank you from Bill Belichick. They do. Because you could argue right now, without that success, Bill Parcells as well is in that same conversation. Without that success, Bill Belichick would have never been a head coach for the Patriots. He would have never been looked at seriously as targeted by Robert Kraft to be swiped away from the Jets. You know what the sad thing is, too, if you think about this right now, about this whole thing? Kraft really stole something away from the Jets more than Bill Belichick walked away from the Jets. I'm just saying. All this rivalry over the years when it came to Bill Belichick and the Jets and Eric Mangini, it was never really about the owners, if you notice, of the Jets. And then again, the owners of the Jets today are completely stupid and dumb that they haven't even finalized what the Packers wanted in return to get Aaron Rodgers. How they just are thinking about it now at this point is beyond me. I can't figure out how this deal has been finalized. Really can't figure it out. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here. This was a really quick show. 42 minutes, not too long. You can listen to me on Snapchat, JAlvaSports123. Sports Junkie Alvo is another name we're tagging for the Snapchat. Joe Alvo on TikTok, Joseph Alvo on Facebook, Joe Alvo Boston Sports on Instagram, and Joe Alvo Boston Sports at gmail.com if you have any questions. The YouTube page is Let Us Interrupt You. Yeah, I have not found a co-host yet. So if anyone's interested in co-hosting for the show, it'd be great. Be much appreciated at this point, and I'll be in a much better location than this because I'm kind of getting tired of this man cave at this point, especially when the Wi-Fi is not doing that great anyway, which is why I actually pretty much rushed this whole show today. Because the fact that Wi-Fi in here has been such a lag lately. Anyway, all the hockey games are currently on right now, including some baseball. You got some games that are delayed. Red Sox already down 1-0 over Tampa Bay. The Yankees are beating the Cleveland Guardians now 7-2. They're in the fourth inning. They were just down 2-1, just not even an inning ago. So that's kind of surprising they're up already. But yeah, Marlins and Phillies just started. The Tigers and Blue Jays are currently in a delay. Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. You got Red Wings and Hurricanes. Bruins have just started, and the Padres and Mets are on as well. You also got the Maple Leafs taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's all that. And before I go, the Last Dance shoes break a record. This just came in just now. Michael Jordan's game-worn Air Jordan 13 from the 1998 NBA Finals become the most expensive pair of kicks ever sold. And where were they sold at? As I'm about to tell you right now before the show comes off the air, at 2.2 million 38 on Southern Boys on Tuesday become the most expensive pair of sneakers ever sold in the history of sold sneakers. Nike Airships were auctioned in 2021 for $1.47 million. That just broke that record as well. So congrats to Michael Jordan and his shoes that are now sold. And congrats to the Yankees so far who are kicking the Cleveland Guardians. Can they keep it up? Who knows? They're up 8-2 right now in the fourth in Cleveland. And I'm signing off. So I'll see you all this week. The show will be on. I'll just do a Friday, Saturday one again. I actually like the Friday, Saturday one better. It's better off that way, so I don't have to do a lot of shows. I'll probably do the format this week of no sports on Friday. That'll probably be the new thing now going forward. Some sports shows on Friday, some on Saturday. I might switch it up for a bit. Probably do a sports package show on Friday. Do no sports on Saturdays. It'll be a switch up in between. So I'll make up my mind then. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week, guys. I will see you again in a few days.